to the special board meeting of the Halton Catholic District School Board on Tuesday, May 24th, 2022. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed and will be posted on the board's YouTube channel. Tonight, we have trustees attending in person and a few participating remotely. In order to be recognized, please use the hand up feature in Teams to be automatically placed in queue. For those in the boardroom, please remember to turn your desk mics on when you speak. For those attending remotely, please remember to turn on your microphone and camera when you are recognized to speak and turn off your camera and mic otherwise. Trustees, please remember that if you speak when you're not recognized or when you do not have the floor, your mic will be muted. Trustees, please note, tonight we have Nadia Timoshenko, legal counsel from Miller Thompson, and parliamentarian Kapoor in attendance. The first order of business tonight is the land acknowledgement, opening prayer, national anthem, and oath of citizenship. I now ask staff to please start us off with the land acknowledgement.
Halton, as we know it today,
is rich in the history and modern traditions
of many First Nations and the Métis.
From the lands of the Anishinaabe
to the Attawandaron,
the Haudenosaunee,
and the Métis.
These lands surrounding the Great Lakes
are steeped in Indigenous history.
As we gather today on these treaty lands,
our Catholic social teachings
call us in solidarity
with our Indigenous brothers and sisters
to honor and respect for direction,
lands, waters, plants, animals, and ancestors
that walked before us.
All these wonderful elements of creation exist,
gifted to us by our Creator God. We acknowledge and thank
the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation
for being stewards of this traditional territory.
Thank you. Director Daly, would you now please lead us in the opening prayer, the national anthem, and the oath of citizenship?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. I'd ask that we keep in our prayers the victims of the tragedy that took place today at Robb Elementary School in Texas. Please join me in the sign of our faith in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Loving God, you have called each of us by name to be your sons and daughters of care and compassion. Each of us look to respond to the needs of your people, especially victims of the tragic incident at Robb Elementary School in Texas. Today, we open our hearts in the working of your Spirit within and among us. We ask you to strengthen and empower us so we might become more caring and compassionate persons. May what we say, our beliefs and actions, be the healing presence our brothers and sisters in Texas need at this time. We ask this in the name of Jesus. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
I affirm that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, her heirs and successors, and that I will faithfully observe the laws of Canada and fulfill my duties as a Canadian citizen. Moving on to the next order of business, which is the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda? Trustee Carabella, I see your hand is up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to make a motion about moving this beginning of the meeting to in camera. Is this the appropriate moment?
I will second that, Mr. Chair, if it's appropriate.
Mr. Chair, we cannot hear you.
Thank you, Trustee Carabella. The advice that we need to go ahead with the approval of the agenda and then make a motion to move in camera. So my question stays, are there any additions to the agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Murphy.
Trustee Murphy, looking for a seconder, please.
Guzzo.
Trustee Guzzo. I shall take this to a recorded vote. Trustee Owen Chinoda.
I'm in favor.
Favor.
Vice Chair Agnew.
In favor.
Trustee Murphy.
In favor.
Trustee O'Brien.
In favor.
Trustee DeRosa.
I'm opposed.
Trustee Carabella.
Opposed.
We have 5 in favor, 2 opposed. The motion carries. The agenda is approved. At this point in time, Trustee Carabella, you mentioned about a motion. Do you want to put a motion at this point in time?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to put forward that we begin the meeting in camera.
So Trustee moves. I'm looking for a seconder.
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
DeRosa seconds. Any discussion on this? Trustee Murphy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can we ask clarification from our legal counsel as to what can be discussed in camera? For example, the complaint and investigation.
Point of privilege.
Point of privilege. Yeah, we can't hear Trustee Murphy. Thank you.
Please turn off your microphones, please. Trustees, microphones. Trustee Murphy, repeat that part, the last part.
Certainly. Can we get advice from legal counsel as to what is appropriate to discuss in camera versus the regular board meeting? For example, any of the details in the actual report or investigation, is it permissible to discuss those in the regular board meeting, or can they only be discussed in camera?
Thank you, Trustee Murphy. I shall now pass this question to legal, Ms. Timoshenko.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. With respect to how you want to manage the report and investigation findings, you're able to address the matter in public if there aren't any intimate details about a trustee that are identified in the report. And by that, we usually are looking at factors that include something with respect to finance, something with respect to their personal life, as opposed to their behavior and actions in the course of their duties as a trustee. So Section 207, Sub 2, governs what can and can't be managed in camera. And the rule is generally that you're in public unless you fall under one of the exceptions in Section 207, which in this case would be with respect to a personal factors related to the particular individuals who are in the report and the investigation generally.
Thank you. Trustee Murphy, do you have your clarification?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Trustee DeRosa. Trustee DeRosa, you have any thing to say on this moving in camera?
I have a question for Ms. Demcheko regarding the disclosure of the permissibility of the disclosure of the name of the trustee in question in public in this meeting.
Thank you, Trustee DeRosa. I shall now forward this question to legal. Ms. Timoshenko, could you?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, the name of the trustee can be released in public. That is not in and of itself subject to confidentiality pursuant to Section 207.
Thank you.
So
Trustee
am I hearing?
Trustee DeRosa,
Mr.
you have
Chair, I'm sorry, but the voice, very difficult to hear the voice. So may I just ask a point of clarification? Did I hear Mrs. Demcheko say, yes, we can disclose the name, or no, we can't in public?
Yes, so my apologies if you couldn't hear me. I'll try and speak a little louder and closer to my computer.
That's
the
okay,
answer to that was yes, you can.
Okay, thank you very much.
Trustee DeRosa. Trustee Carabella, you have your hand up. Do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Yes, well, regarding the advice we did receive that it says here that it is appropriate for the secretary, chair, and vice chair to begin the process in camera and have the board decide whether to deal with the matter in camera. So that's why I believe that we should start this process in camera, and we then would be able to discuss the details and not worry if in particular we might be in breach for legal matters. So that is why I put forward this motion. And I think.
Thank you, Trustee Carabella. This process was started in camera. It's out in public. You are free to put the motion. Thank you, Trustee Carabella. So since I do not see any other hands up, I shall now take this
Mr.
to
Chair, I'm trying. Yeah, my hand is up, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Trustee Rosa, I don't see your hand up, but you have a question?
It was up and now it's on again. I haven't touched anything. So it's up and so it's up. I will ask my question now. So it is important to note that there has been no deliberation on this matter in camera. No deliberation with all trustees present. There has been no review of any report in camera. And to this date, there has been no disclosure of the name. So if we are to proceed on this basis in a public meeting, it must be very, very clearly understood that there has been no in-depth discussion with all trustees at the table in camera as the rules provide. So as a result of that, if we're going to proceed, I think we are in fact treading on legal jeopardy. And it is very, very important that we understand that. Because if there's going to be any detailed discussion publicly, including the release of the name, all this should have been agreed in camera. And as far as I understand, that has not taken place.
Thank you,
Mr.
Trustee. Thank you, Trustee DeRosa. I hear concerns. I'm going to bounce this question to legal. Ms. Timoshenko, could you respond to Trustee DeRosa's concerns?
So through you, Mr. Chair, with respect to discussion and receipt, first of all, with respect to discussion of the report and its findings, the nature of the allegations and the findings in the report would dictate whether or not it falls under Section 207 of the Act. The fact that it is in and of itself a matter pursuant to the Code of Conduct and could be interpreted as a legal matter doesn't define whether or not it falls in camera matters or in public matters. It's the nature of the actual allegations and the specific investigation findings that were reported to trustees. So that decision should be made by trustees based on those particular issues, not whether or not it's considered legal.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I have a supplementary? May I follow through with another point, please?
Rosa, we have other speakers in the line. I can come back to you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll wait my turn patiently.
Thank you. Vice Chair Agnew, you have the floor.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm actually okay because my question was just answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Agnew. Trustee Guzzo, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I would suggest have legal here. She has given us her opinion now 3 times. I don't think it's going to change. I don't think she's going to change it. So I would ask that we move on.
Thank you, Trustee Guzzo. Trustee DeRosa, I'm coming back to you for your clarification question, if you have any.
Yes, I do, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. On the point that have been made from Trustee Guzzo, this matter is not as clear as it's made out to be, and I, with all due respect to Ms. Timoshenko's opinion, and I respect her opinion, I think that deliberating this matter in public puts us in legal jeopardy, either as a board or independently. And until we have absolute clarification of this, then I am very, very reluctant to proceed with this meeting on this basis unless it could be moved in camera. There has taken place no discussion in camera or debate in camera about the allegations being made. I think that's a necessary thing that needs to happen in camera, as it normally would. And it's not a deliberation that can take place in any other way. So, you know, I must dissent. I must dissent personally from any participation in this process if it becomes, if it proceeds in a public forum. Especially since the trustee in question may not be present to represent himself. So I think the best way to proceed is with care. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You repeated the same thing again. Thank you for your opinion. Really appreciate it, Vice Chair Agnew.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Just then I would have a question for Nadia with respect to what the comments that were just made about the necessity to take this in camera. I know it's been answered a couple of times, but it has been restated again that this was not discussed in camera and that is in fact a necessity for this whole process to continue. And I would like clarification again that is not a necessity in order for us to have this conversation in public. Please. Thank you. I shall pass this question to legal. Ms. Timoshenko.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. It's not a necessity under the Act that the deliberation occur in camera unless there are specific allegations and or deliberations that are going to touch on matters that are of a personal nature and not with respect to the trustee's responsibilities, duties, actions as a trustee.
Thank you. Vice Chair Agnew, do you have any?
That is great. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee DeRosa, I see your hand up there. Do you have any new information?
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. I would suggest we bring Trustee Carabella's motion to a vote and move on.
Thank you. Thank you. I shall now call the vote. We are voting on Trustee Carabella's motion to move this discussion in camera, moved by Trustee Carabella, seconded by Trustee DeRosa. Trustee Ohan Chinoda, how do you vote?
I'm opposed.
Uzo?
Opposed.
Vice Chair Agnew?
Opposed.
Trustee Murphy?
Opposed.
Trustee O'Brien?
In favor.
Trustee DeRosa?
In favor.
Carabella?
In favor.
Trustee Bowie? Okay. So we have 3 in favor, 4 opposed. The motion to move in camera fails. We shall now continue with our next order of business, and that's declarations of conflict of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest to be declared tonight? Seeing none. Trustee Carabella, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question regarding conflict of interest. I don't have my own conflict of interest. Regarding the voting that takes place, I'd like clarification on everyone that's able to vote, and if there are no conflict of interests that might happen.
Not debating or discussing that. My question is very simple and it's very clear. Are there any conflicts of interest to be declared? Do you have a conflict of interest tonight, Trustee Carabella?
I do not.
Trustee DeRosa, I see your hand up. Do you have declarations for conflict for tonight's meeting?
I personally don't, Mr. Chair. I would suspect that there might be existence of conflicts of interest around the table, but I will answer for myself. I do not.
Have the floor. Thank you. We shall now move on to the next order of business, which is action items. Item 4.1, Code of Conduct. I shall now hand the floor to Vice Chair Agnew for this segment. Vice Chair Agnew.
Point of privilege, your microphone is not on. Thank you.
As I was saying, I will do my very best to monitor the chat and try to be as logistically in tune as I can as I take over the reins here from Chair Dewart. So we have before us an action item, which is 4.1, the Code of Conduct. Trustees will have received
Point of privilege, Madam Chair. Point of privilege. Madam Chair, I cannot hear you very well. So if there's a way to increase the volume, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Can you hear me now, Trustee DeRosa?
It's quite faint. I hear everybody else, but it's quite faint in your case.
Anyone else out there?
I hear you, but it would be if it would be louder, I would appreciate it.
Any louder than I'm yelling right now. Is anybody else
Yeah,
able
you see,
to hear?
in this particular case, it doesn't. So.
Just 1 second, Trustee DeRosa. Can you just hold on 1 second? Can anybody else hear me out there that's on joining us virtually?
I can hear you.
Very much. Trustee Carabella, can you hear me?
You were going off and on. Now I can hear you. You've asked me. Thank you.
Trustee O'Brien?
Yeah, you are going on and off. I guess when you face your mic, you're a lot clearer.
Okay, will do. All right, so can I continue now? We're all set? The microphone is in front of me?
Madam Chair, I'll be particularly attentive, but the problem hasn't gone away from me.
Are we good to proceed?
I can hear you.
Thank you very much. As I was saying, we have item 4.1 before us, which is the code of conduct. All trustees will have received a copy of the investigation report, as well as a copy of the initial complaint, along with the legal documentation that we did receive from Miller Thompson, helping to guide us through this process. Yeah. And then everyone would have, I would hope, a copy of our trustee code of conduct as well. And so, you know, I'm trying to decide the best place to start here, but really, everybody will have received hopefully a copy of the investigation report, and you will have read that investigation report along with a copy of the original complaints of the code of conduct violation. What happens at that point is it becomes incumbent upon us to, for two things. One is to determine during this board meeting to determine whether or not we believe that there has been a breach in the standard of the code of conduct. And then if that has in fact happened, then there would be a resolution to impose a sanction. If there has not been a determination that the code of conduct has been breached, then there's no need for the second piece. So that's where we land right now is upon receipt of the investigation report is to make a determination at this point if there has in fact been a breach of the code of conduct, and then that can take us to the next step if necessary or not. So does anybody have any questions? Okay, let me go to the chat here. I will start taking questions from everybody on this process. Trustee O'Brien, go ahead.
A point of privilege, Trustee Agnew. It says here my chat is turned off for this meeting.
Okay. I believe our chats are turned off for all of our board meetings. So please feel free to use the hand up feature, Trustee Carabella. Trustee O'Brien, you had your hand up. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. My question is to Miss Nadia. I'm sorry, I can't say her last name very well. My question to you is a question that's related to legal. And Nadia, if I may call you that, wanted to just ask you, we received something through our director when we were developing a procedure to move forward in any code of conduct issues. And he was kind enough to give us something from the module from OXTA, our association. And it's a sample enforcement process. And we never got around to using it yet, but it is pretty comprehensive. And from OXTA's module, it does say, when giving boards advice on developing policies, it says there are restrictions on bringing forward a complaint in the period leading up to an election. I'm just reading it right here, what's in the their process here. It says there are restrictions on bringing forward a complaint in the period leading up to an election. Now we were less than 5 months away from election now, and nominations are already being taken. So my question to you, Nadia, are we legally okay to go ahead with a code of conduct hearing when we are in an election period?
Through you, Trustee Agnew. Yes, I think that the official date, and I may be wrong, is August 8th. It's when the nominations close. That's the period technically leading up to the trustee election, municipal election. And I may be wrong about the specific date in August, but it is a date in August. So you are currently still able to hear code of conduct allegations and make a determination, and also set a time for a response.
So, Madam Vice Chair, just for clarification, then it is not the initial nomination date, it's the closing date.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee O'Brien. Trustee DeRosa, you have your hand up.
I'll cede my turn for this time, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee DeRosa. Does anyone else have anything, questions, comments, next steps, anything with respect to the report? Yes, Trustee Murphy, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the next steps were illustrated or revealed to us that we need to make a resolution, a determination if there was a breach of the code of conduct, and then the next step is to decide if need be, are there any sanctions. So at this point, I've reviewed the complaint, I've reviewed the investigation. In my opinion, there was a breach, so I would like to move a motion that we find regarding the investigation that Trustee Duarte brought against Trustee Antomasi, that there was a breach of the code of conduct.
Thank you, Trustee Murphy. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Trustee Renata. Trustee Murphy, would you like to speak to that?
I think everybody has done their due diligence and has read the investigation, and they'll come to their own determination, and I have read it and come to mine, and that's why I put the motion forward. It's really up to each trustee to make their own decision and vote accordingly.
Thank you, Trustee Murphy. Rosie, is there any way we could put that up on the screen? Do you mind? Just hold tight for 1 minute, trustees. I would just remind trustees to keep your microphone off until you're called upon. Thank you. Okay, while we're getting that up on the screen, Trustee O'Brien, did you want to go ahead? You're next on the speakers list.
Madam Chair, my question had to do with the sanctions. Could I ask it now? I mean, I don't mind waiting, but let me wait, because that it'd be more appropriate. Thanks.
Probably would work better then. Thank you, Trustee O'Brien. Trustee DeRosa, did you have a comment or a question while we're just getting the resolution up on the screen? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'd like to highlight a few points about the process. The process, in my view, against the opinion of my colleague, Trustee Murphy, the process has not evolved as it should to deliberate and to discuss this process as a group, to come to and vote on a recommended decision. So let's keep that in mind. We are not following due process. The Trustee Antomasi, now that the name has been made public, has not had the opportunity to respond as the policy allows him to do. So he has not been availed of that opportunity. And I think the opportunity to defend himself is sacrosanct for anybody who is accused of anything. Also in consideration is the fact that Trustee Antomasi is on medical leave.
Can I just
not receiving, Madam Chair, I would like my 3 minutes if you don't mind.
You have it.
May I have my 3 minutes to speak to the motion, Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
I don't hear you.
Go ahead and continue.
May I continue?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the key points and the facts to keep in mind is that Trustee Antomasi has not been given, according to policy and according to his right, the opportunity to respond to the allegations.
Point of order.
Also,
Chair,
reports.
Point of order.
We have a point of order. We have 2 point of orders, actually. Go ahead, Trustee Guzzo. Your point of order.
Thank you through you, Madam Chair. We are not debating. We're currently debating the motion of whether or not there's a breach of code of conduct. And the comments that Trustee DeRosa is making are actually not correct. They're not accurate. The policy has been followed as well. We have sought legal counsel and advice on this. But that being said, we're talking about the motion that Trustee Murphy has brought forward. So the comments are not relevant to the motion on the table at the time.
Thank you, Trustee Guzzo.
With all due respect to Trustee Guzzo, I want to respect their opinion, but that's all that is. It's an opinion. I am speaking to the motion, and I would like my time to be able to do it.
Trustee DeRosa, you do not have the floor. Thank you, Trustee Guzzo. Your point of order is well taken.
Point of privilege, he could ask for a parliamentary inquiry.
I'm talking, Trustee Carabella. One moment, please. I'm addressing the point of order on the table. Trustee Guzzo, your point of order is well received. Thank you. Trustee O'Hearns-Renata, did you also have a point of order?
I did, Madam Chair, and not to interrupt the proceedings, but as I go through our code of conduct process, I'm not quite sure, and maybe we could get a parliamentarian's opinion that the process we are following is as per our policy exactly. So I'm not quite sure where Trustee DeRosa is coming from with those comments.
Thank you, Trustee O'Hearns-Renata. Your point of order is also well received.
I can clarify that.
Trustee DeRosa, I'm talking. Please, one moment, please. We have to deal with the point of order on the table. Trustee O'Hearns-Renata, your point of order is well received. Parliamentarian Kapoor, did you want to comment to that? No? Okay. So the point of order is well received. Trustee DeRosa, you may continue, provided that you stick to the motion on the table and the resolution as it is.
And that's what I'm trying to do, Madam Chair, and I'm sorry if I spoke out of turn. So I would like to finish my comments that Trustee Yantomasi has not been availed of his right to respond to the allegations. Besides that, we have not, as a group, had the opportunity to deliberate the results of the investigation.
We have another point of
order. Respecting Trustee Murphy.
Trustee DeRosa, we have another point of order on the floor. Trustee Guzzo, please go ahead and state your point of order.
Thank you through you, Madam Chair. Once again, Trustee DeRosa has stated that the policy has not been followed. However, the policy has been followed. At this point, there has been no results brought forward on the table and no sanctions have been put in place. So I'm not sure how Trustee Antomasi has been limited of his right to respond.
So
thank you,
if I may clarify that.
Guzzo, your point of order has been well received. Trustee DeRosa, please, if you can just keep to the comments as they pertain specifically to the motion that is on the table, that would be helpful.
So I have one question to help clarify this confusion. Has Trustee Antomasi been availed of his right to respond to the allegations?
I would be happy to answer that. And yes, he has, Trustee DeRosa.
I'm waiting for an answer.
Oh,
she has. So Trustee Yantomasi has been given his 14 days or whatever days he is allowed to have to respond to the allegations.
Okay, so that's a different piece, Trustee DeRosa. If you read through the process and the documentation, the 14 days relates to the sanction and the decision that comes tonight. The original piece is actually the opportunity that the respondent is given when the complaint is originally made. And to that point, trustee Ian Tomasi was given a chance to respond to the initial complaint. And that is detailed in the report. The piece you're referring to about the 14 days, that comes later on, should there be a decision this evening and a sanction put forward. So they're two different things.
So, Madam Chair, then we would admit that, in fact, we have not had the opportunity for trustee Tomasi to deliberate his responses because those are being considered right now. So it seems to me that we're doing this after the fact. But I want to conclude my comments, Madam Chair.
Actually not correct, trustee DeRosa. That is actually not correct. Trustee Ian Tomasi, as detailed in the report, we follow the process. As the respondent, trustee, as I just commented, trustee Ian Tomasi was given the opportunity to respond and to participate as part of the inquiry and the investigation. He chose not to do that. And so that part of the process was fulfilled. I'm going to go to the next person in line.
Chair.
Next person in line, trustee Carabella, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am having some internet issues, so hopefully I will not hopefully I'll be able to finish. I have, so we have more, I'm just going to speak to the motion. And part of that is the process, how we got to this motion. I have two particular questions that I'd like to be answered. That we received the legal advice from Miller Thompson on March 25, 2022. And as I don't know who received it, it says Pat Daly, the director, received it. And I don't, somebody, obviously trustees were in the know before it was given to all of us. So I wanted to clarify that. Why did only some trustees receive it near the end of the process and not right when it was received? That was my first question. And my second question is, with regards to the process we followed through this legal advice about choosing the investigator or the person doing the report of the complaint, it says that the board would be choosing that, and I don't have the exact phrase right in front of me right now, but I would like to know how the investigator was chosen to proceed with the complaint. Then it wasn't a full board decision. I'd like to know how that, what decision was made.
Thank you, trustee Carabella. I can begin the conversation, the answer, and then someone else wants to take it over. But as we've done previously in the past, we've sought legal opinions previously on different matters in case preventatively or preemptively in case we might need something. In this situation, I believe there was a request to obtain legal opinion on what that code of conduct would look like if we were to receive a code of conduct complaint. And so that opinion was there, and that's why, but it wasn't relevant at the point because we didn't have a code of conduct complaint. So once it became relevant, then that document was shared with all trustees. So I don't know what other information, does anybody want to, trustee Dewart, do you want to comment?
Madam Chair, trustee code of conduct policy I-36 is very clear about who does the investigation, and it very clearly says that the vice chair has the authority to do the investigation when it is passed on to him or her. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Dewart. Trustee Carabella, did you have a follow-up?
Not right now, thank you.
Very much. Trustee Guzzo, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you through you, Madam Chair. I was just going to offer in that when the complaint was received, it was shared with all trustees as well as the actual complaint itself. All trustees received a copy of it. So the process to to what I read in the policy has been followed. So I'm good with moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Guzzo. Trustee DeRosa, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A simple question. It was a question which I wanted to ask previously when I gave up my turn. Have the reports been distributed to the public?
No, Trustee DeRosa, no, they have not. They're confidential in nature, and so they were not shared with the public.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I have a follow-up?
Yes, you may.
Was it public knowledge at the time when 4.1 was removed from the agenda in the previous meeting as to what 4.1 dealt with specifically? Because we were not distributed any specifics or any documentation with respect to 4.1, which was the original reason why 4.1 was removed from the agenda. Was anybody in the was it public knowledge as to what the purpose of 4.1 was at the time?
It was not, Trustee DeRosa.
Thank you.
I can hear you, Trustee DeRosa. Sorry, just thank you. Trustee O'Brien, you have your hand up. Do you want to go ahead?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And first, sorry, Madam Vice Chair. First question, did you say the report itself was confidential? Did you just say that?
The actual investigation report?
Yes.
That is confidential. That has not been shared with anyone outside, like anyone in the public. It's been shared with the trustees.
Okay. I'm making more of a point than anything. And I know this is a mechanical issue. We are in a public debate. An allegation has come forward. Our process only allows us to release the name pretty much tonight. And we are debating whether or not a breach was made of code of conduct. Yet the public right now doesn't really know what the breach was. So my question to you, Madam Vice Chair, will the actual allegation be made available to the public sometime, just so they know what we're debating right now?
The best of my knowledge, Trustee O'Brien, the actual details of the allegation will not be that's not detail that will be shared publicly. What will happen publicly is what's transpiring tonight will be whether or not there has been a breach in the code of conduct, what area of the code of conduct has been breached, and then any sanctions put forward. But the details.
So just, but you're going in and out. I lost you on the last sentence.
Sorry. So
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I want to hear you, but I can't.
I know, because Trustee DeRosa has his microphone on. So sorry, okay. Trustee DeRosa. So again, just to repeat, the details of the allegations will not be shared. Any information that is talked about in public this evening, as far as the breach of the standard of breach of the code of conduct, and any sanctions that are imposed. But with respect to these specifics on the allegation, those are not shared publicly. I would be happy to have legal answer that question in a more fulsome detail for you, Trustee O'Brien, in case I've missed something.
If that's okay, but just one further question with that. So if the public does not hear any more than what's going on tonight, then does that apply to the press as well? Like, will they only hear what's going on tonight?
I would imagine so, but again, I don't want to speak out of turn, Trustee O'Brien. So I would actually prefer if legal could answer that, if that's okay with you.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Nadia, are you there? Are you able to answer that question for us? Thank you.
Yes, through you, Trustee Agnew. The
allegations and the investigation report can be made public if the trustees choose to do so. That can be done because the matter is being heard in public and not in camera. In which case, if it is disclosed to the public, of course, the media might have a chance to access it. Similarly, if there is a sanction, the sanction must be recorded in public session, and therefore any response to that sanction, which is covered by your code of conduct process, would also be available to the public.
So just for clarification, the public will hear no more unless we as a board decide. Correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Question, Trustee O'Brien. That was great to get clarity on that. Thank you for the answer. Trustee DeRosa, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The motivation behind this particular motion, which Trustee Murphy has put forward, I respect the manner in which he reached his conclusions in motivating the presentation of this motion. But because there has been no fulsome discussion after the review of the reports, both the review of the allegations and the results of the investigation, with proper debate, I could not come to that same conclusion without a fulsome debate and a fulsome review. We are, the trustees around the table are not being given the opportunity to do that. And therefore, respecting his own decision and how he's come to it, it's certainly not reflective of everybody else and how they've come to it. Certainly in my case, I have not had that opportunity. I could not come to a decision on this thing without giving the opportunity for a fulsome consideration of the issues and a debate over the issues and the opportunity to ask questions over the issues. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Trustee DeRosa. Trustee O'Hearns-Renata, you have the floor.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. So I just wanted to, I'll speak for myself because I can only speak for myself. We were given the complainant information, alleged, and then we were given the investigative report. And as did Trustee Murphy, I took the time, I read through it. I performed my due diligence as an elected official to go through all the documentation and have come to the conclusion that there was a breach of our code of conduct. Our code of conduct is public. So when we talk about specific breaches, I mean, people can go in and look at our policies to look at the different areas that does cover. So that's just one thing. And could I get a follow-up, Madam Chair?
Absolutely.
When our fellow trustees and Trustee DeRosa, when you start talking about people's motivation for moving a motion, I find that to be, and I'll be quite honest, very disrespectful. I'm not Trustee Murphy, so I won't speak to him, but please don't ever question my motivation when I bring forth a motion. Thank you very much.
May I clarify, Madam Chair? I'm happy to respond to that.
No,
because there was no ill intent at all. And obviously people can interpret things the way they want, but when we're talking about motivation, I'm talking straight.
Thank you. Trustee O'Hearns-Renata, thank you very much. Next in the speakers list, we have Trustee Guzzo. Go ahead, Guzzo.
Thank you. Just a clarification, and I did see from myself, but it's been a while since I read the original complaint. If I'm not mistaken, the majority of the comments were on recorded session. Maybe can I ask a question to Trustee Duart that he was able to clarify some of his complaints based on our recordings through YouTube, et cetera, to justify some of his comments?
Yeah, so you can ask the question if Trustee Duart is comfortable responding, then absolutely. Trustee Duart.
Trustee Guzzo, any specific one? Because there are so many that I got to refer them myself. It's been, I've lost track of them, but could you specifically point out to them and the wording?
No, just all of them, Trustee Dewar. Just, I'm assuming that because a lot of them were done in public during sessions, they would have been recorded, that you would have utilized the recordings and they would have been, yeah, I know that I went back myself, some of them, so I just wanted to know if you did that as well.
Thank you, Trustee Guza. For easy reference, I put the date, the content, and the timestamp in the report, which should be an easy guide for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Trustee Guzzo. Trustee DeRosa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and hopefully it's the last time I weigh in this discussion and we can move forward. I can't shake the idea that Trustee Yantomasi is not being able to account for his actions and to respond to the allegations. Trustee Yantomasi is not able to attend this meeting. He is on medical leave, and we need, for procedural reasons, for humanity reasons, Madam Chair, I'm being muted. I don't know why.
There's information that you have spoken to that is not actually information that is for public consumption. So I'm going to stop you there. If you have a specific question for the legal department, for our legal representation, please go ahead and ask that specific question. But please do not speak about any information that has been shared with trustees confidentially or in camera.
Madam Chair, I'll have one comment. Anybody accused has the right in our society to respond to the accusations. This is not what's happening tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee DeRosa. That is in fact incorrect. As we've already stated, Trustee Intomasi did have an opportunity to respond to the allegations, and he will have a chance to respond should any sanctions come forward this evening. So that's actually incorrect, but thank you for your comments. I don't see any other hands up, so I think we are ready to take this to a vote. Trustee Carabella, in under the wire. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Once we vote on this motion, is there separate motions being put forward about the next process?
Yes, so Trustee Carabella, there would be two resolutions. We would require one resolution that would vote on whether or not breach has happened, and then there can be another resolution that can speak to the sanctions.
Thank you.
Okay, are we ready to go ahead and take the vote? Okay, so just for reference, we do have a motion that has been moved by Trustee Murphy, seconded by Trustee O'Hearns-Renata. Resolve that the Board of Trustees agree in regard to the allegation from Trustee Dewar regarding Trustee Intomasi that there was a breach in the Code of Conduct. Trustee Murphy, would you like to close?
Yes, I will, Madam Chair. Thank you. So I think Trustee DeRosa's point about motivation, I didn't take it as it sounded. We have a legal obligation to move forward with this process. We took an oath. We have to move forward. Nobody takes any glee or joy in this process. That's the last thing I think any one of us wants to be tied to this process where, you know, we could be spending our time focusing on student achievement. But however, there is a legal requirement for us to make sure we follow the due process, and we have an obligation to do so. Most of us were party to all of these events. There's nothing in this report, maybe one or two emails that I wasn't a party to, but everything else was copied to everybody. We were all at the meeting. So we all have a very thorough understanding of the complaint. Again, it's up to each individual trustee to evaluate and weigh what their threshold is. I have done that process. I've been diligent. I put the time in and looked at it objectively. And in many of the cases, not all the cases, in many of the cases, it met the threshold. To say even some of them I find are potentially more serious than others, and therefore carry more weight. Again, it's up to each trustee to determine through their own threshold what is a breach and what isn't a breach, and what is egregious and what is not egregious. And I leave that up to them. That's all I have to say, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Trustee Murphy. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take the votes. So Trustee O'Hearn-Renata?
In favor?
Oh.
Yes, Trustee Carabella?
Oh, sorry, Trustee Agnew. I was trying to get in after Trustee Murphy with an important question, I think, regarding the voting before we start, and to ask a parliamentary, since this is a serious matter, does it require 2/3 majority?
No, it does not.
Can that be confirmed by the parliamentarian?
This motion requires a majority vote to be adopted, not a 2/3.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Trustee Guzzo? Sorry, it's okay. Trustee Guzzo?
In favor.
Trustee Murphy?
In favor.
Trustee O'Brien?
Abstained.
Trustee DeRosa?
I dissent, Madam Chair, and I'd like that particular dissension recorded. So I'm opposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Carabella?
I dissent and I oppose.
Thank you. Trustee Dewar?
In favor.
Okay, and I'm in favor as well. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor, 2 opposed, and 1 abstain. So the motion passes.
A point of privilege, Madam Vice Chair. And Madam Vice Chair, is more of a way to be recognized.
Sorry, go ahead, Trustee O'Brien.
It's more of a question before we move to the next session, just so I know what the options really are. I'm looking at the Ed Act, and I see that there's number 1, censure the member, 2, barring the member from attending all or part of a meeting, and 3, barring the member from standing on a committee. If I could get a legal opinion on what exactly censure means as an option sanction.
Yeah, we can do that.
Through you, Madam Vice Chair, a censure would essentially be identifying that the trustee has acted inappropriately and censuring the behavior. So it's a record of the fact that the behavior as alleged was inappropriate and that the trustees do not accept that behavior.
But just to follow up, would there be like a consequence, an actual, I'm from the teaching world, so would there be like a, I want to say consequence, but an actual act that is different or something taken away, or I don't know if I'm explaining myself.
I think I understand what you're trying to ask, and the admonishment by the Board of Trustees is in and of itself the discipline. So not unlike a letter of reprimand, for example. It is the fact that on the written record, there is an admonishment, a censure by the Board of Trustees regarding the behavior.
And it would be in writing?
It's in writing in effect because it becomes part of your minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, so if I'm looking at the process, trustees, the motion has passed that has found that there was a breach in the code of conduct. So it is now incumbent upon us to impose a sanction. Once we determine the sanction, then I can read what those next steps will be as far as notification to to the respondent trustees. So we're at a point now where we need to make a determination with respect to the sanctions. Does anybody have anything that they would like to put forward? Trustee O'Hearns-Renata, please go ahead.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair, I would like to offer up to my fellow trustees to move a motion to delay the sanction setting, for lack of a better phrase, until Trustee Intomasi is available to respond.
Okay, thank you. Trustee O'Hearns-Renata?
I will second that motion.
Sorry, just 1 second. We can discuss.
Point of privilege?
Yep, go ahead, Trustee Guzzo.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. If you wanted to get your seconder first, and then I can ask the question. The question was just going to be, can we decide on the sanction, or if there should be a sanction, and then delay imposing the sanction until he's given his opportunity to respond? I'm just thinking that makes more sense than delaying it yet again.
Trustee O'Hearns-Renata, is there consideration on that piece?
Yeah, there's always consideration. I guess I was just thinking, at this point, until Trustee Intomasi is available to respond, we can delay our discussion about imposing sanctions until he's available back at the board table, so to speak. So that's where I was coming with that motion.
Okay, so what we can do is, why don't we get a seconder, since you put a motion on the table, Trustee O'Hearns-Renata. If we have a seconder, then let's have a discussion about that piece. Do I have a seconder?
I will second it. Trustee O'Brien.
Trustee O'Brien seconds it. Thank you very much, Trustee O'Brien. Before we get to a list of questions, Trustee O'Hearns-Renata, did you want to speak to it any further?
Not really, just to say that, we've gone through the process, we're following the process. There is another step of the process that has a timeline involved for response, 14 days, I believe, if I read that correctly. I guess I'm just offering it up. We as a board has decided there has been a breach of the code of conduct. So as far as imposing sanctions, I don't want to put any, undue stress or anything like that. So maybe if we delayed that, it might be, for the benefit of the board.
Okay, thank you very much, Trustee O'Hearns-Renata. So on the speakers list, oh, you know what? Is it okay? Does everyone mind if I jump ahead and just allow legal to comment? Is that okay? All right, yes, please, thank you. Go ahead, Nadia.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that both in the Education Act as well as your Code of Conduct process, the trustee who has had a finding against them has at least 14 days to respond. So the board can provide a much longer period of response. I just wanted to clarify that it's not within 14 days, it's at least 14 days.
Okay, thank you very much. We need that clarification, so thank you very much. On the speakers list, I've got Trustee Murphy, Trustee DeRosa, and Trustee O'Brien. Trustee Murphy, do you want to go ahead?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think, potentially there's some extenuating circumstances that would make this the right decision, which trustees are probably aware of. So I guess my question really then is to Nadia, is this, are we fulfilling our obligation by deferring a decision on the sanction? So, or are we allowed, not are we fulfilling our obligation? Are legally we allowed to do this?
So through you, Vice Chair Agnew, the Education Act assumes that the process will occur one step following the next. So a determination about whether there's been a breach, and then a determination about whether or not to impose a sanction and what that sanction is if it's being imposed. And then the respondent has at least 14 days to respond. And so the trustees have a couple of choices. You could defer your decision regarding the sanction. There's nothing that prohibits you from deferring, or you could impose a sanction but provide a very lengthy period of time, or a period of time that starts at a certain point in the future. So a condition happening first, and then the clock starting to tick for the purposes of a response, if that makes sense.
Yes, and a follow-up. As was brought up by the discussion with Trustee O'Brien, there is a date of August the 8th. So where there is other legal requirements. So would the sanction have to be, could the sanction occur after that date, or must it occur before that date?
So in my opinion, it would have to occur before that date. And I just wanted to clarify, it's the beginning of August. I may be wrong about the specific date, so my apologies. I looked at that issue and I didn't write down the specific date. So it might be August 6th or 8th, but it's when the close of nominations takes place and the actual election period begins. So it would be the beginning of August. So my apologies.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next on the speakers list, I have Trustee DeRosa. Go ahead, Trustee DeRosa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you. Madam Chair, I've been asking all night whether Trustee Yantamasi has been given the opportunity to respond. And now I think I'm hearing a different story, that he has responded. So frankly speaking, I'm confused, and I'd like to know exactly what the story is. Was he given the opportunity to respond before we actually passed this motion? And if he hasn't, which I believe that was your answer was that he had. Now I'm hearing that he has not. So what is it, Madam Chair? Please help me clarify so I can make a good, sound, informed, rational decision.
I would love to help you do that, Trustee DeRosa. So in the report, which everyone would have received, and I assume it's been read and reviewed by all the trustees, there is a piece there that does state that the complaint was sent to all trustees, and upon receipt of the complaint, both parties were given the opportunity to participate in the investigation. Trustee Ian Tomasi did not reply to the invitation to provide oral or written statements, et cetera, et cetera. So so again, I'm not sure where the confliction is coming, but as I did state, I'm very clear. Trustee Ian Tomasi was provided a copy of the original complaint. He was then given an opportunity to respond to the complaint and be a part of the investigation process. Trustee Ian Tomasi did not participate in that process. And so he did, in fact, have an opportunity to respond.
Okay, Madam Chair, just a point of clarification, and I will leave this issue alone.
Trustee DeRosa, stop it, please. The second piece, which has been reiterated multiple times this evening, is that there are two opportunities to respond. So the first part has been discussed, which is the initial response available to the respondent upon receipt of the complaint, to be a part of the investigation process and to give any statements that you'd like to do as part of that process. That opportunity was afforded. I'm not done talking. That opportunity was afforded to Trustee Ian Tomasi. He chose not to take it. The second part, as it pertains to responding, is as we just discussed, is there's an opportunity for response when it comes to the findings about whether or not the breach has happened and the sanctions accordingly. And that has not happened because obviously we are just discussing this evening. And so at that point, if there is sanctions that are put forward, we've already found a finding that the breach has happened. There will be an opportunity at that point for Trustee Ian Tomasi to respond to those motions. Is that clear?
No, it's not, Madam Chair.
So what
because
part
I'd like to ask a question. I'd like to ask a question without being muted.
It feels very, very clear. And it's very clear in the report. If you've read the report, the opening paragraph speaks to the part about the response. And you just heard from myself as well as from legal about the opportunity to respond once sanctions have been placed forward. So I'm not quite sure how much clearer that can get. Did you have a clarifying question for legal you'd like to ask?
Yes, I do have a clarifying question, Madam Chair, and thank you for allowing it. Okay. So the opportunity to respond that was offered to Trustee Antomasi, did it fall by the wayside because he did not respond, or he specifically refused to respond? Did he give instructions that he was not specifically responding? Because given the condition that he is in, and I will say no more, he may have not responded by default. So I want to know whether he gave specific instructions that he would not be responding. And I'd like evidence of that, Madam Chair. Thank you.
DeRosa, I'm not going to provide evidence of anything at this point because an email that was sent to me as the investigator was sent confidentially. However, you'll see in the report, it does speak to an email pertaining to the question you're asking. I would be happy to ask Nadia how much of this I can share with the public as far as the piece around the response to the initial complaint.
Through you, Madam Vice Chair, you can identify whether, in fact, a response was received by yourself to the option of responding to the allegations themselves.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And so in the report, you will see, again, that there was an opportunity that was given formally to Trustee Ian Tomasi, outlining the opportunity for response. There was a time frame that was provided as per the process that we have, that we were given by legal. That was explained to Trustee Ian Tomasi in an email as far as what his options were. He did not respond to that email. Instead, on May the 5th, 2022, I did receive an email from Trustee Ian Tomasi to myself with a copy to the director, refuting all of the allegations of violation of code of conduct with no other detail.
May I have a follow-up, Madam Chair?
Absolutely.
Did he send you an email saying, I refuse or refrain from responding to the allegations?
Trustee DeRosa, I will read it one more time. On May, you have the report, right? I just want to be clear. I want to make sure I didn't mess up, that you didn't get a copy of the report. You have the report, right?
No, I did, and I went.
Make sure that I hadn't messed up in what I sent out.
Madam Chair, please indicate to somebody who was constantly muting me not to mute me, please.
2022, Trustee Ian Tomasi provided an email to myself as the investigator with a copy to Pat Daly, refuting all of the allegations of violation of code of conduct. That is the only correspondence that was received by Trustee Ian Tomasi with respect to the code of conduct complaint and the invitation to respond. I'm going to go to the next speaker on the list. Trustee O'Brien, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. The motion to postpone until Trustee Ian Tomasi has a chance to recover enough to respond, I think is wise. This is our first code of conduct hearing, and to err on the side of caution, maybe even compassion for his whatever reason he's absent, I think would be wise and prudent, but with a time frame of, well, whatever's reasonable. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you very much, Trustee Ian Tomasi. Trustee O'Hearns-Renata, you have the floor. Sorry, what? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Go ahead, Trustee O'Hearns-Renata.
That's okay. You meant Trustee O'Brien, we know. Okay, so through my motion that's been seconded by Trustee O'Brien and the new information that our legal has provided us, and I've done some digging, the final day to file a nomination, I believe, is Friday, August the 19th at 2 p.m. So we have constraints. From what I understand, please correct me if I'm wrong, that we have until August the 19th to complete our program process. So I need to make an amendment to that motion because we have some time constraints in here now. So we need to give Trustee Intomasi enough time to respond, but we also need time for us as the Board of Trustees to decide what the sanctions may or may not be. I'm wondering if we defer that decision for sanctions until Friday, July 29th, with response has to be back by August the 18th. I'm looking for help there, fellow trustees. Anyone jump in?
Okay, so we've seen that change there. Before I get to the other speakers on the list, does anybody want to speak specifically to this change that's been made here?
Madam Chair, my hand is up.
Was your hand up for this change or was your hand up before?
No, for this change. I have a question.
Worked out well. Okay, go ahead, Trustee DeRosa.
Again, Madam Chair, thank you very much for your graciousness. Can somebody explain to me what the relevance of this date is, other than, I mean, we are talking about the substance of what Trustee Intomasi has done and the validity of it. It shouldn't be driven by the ability of a deadline date, other than if there's any political motivation behind this. I think we are mixing apples and oranges here. We are discussing the behavior of a trustee. It is not related to a particular date, and therefore our actions should not be driven by that date, especially if that date has any relevance to the political activation and the elections that are looming upon us. Please help me understand why this is relevant. Thank you.
I would love to. Through you, Madam Chair, may I respond to Trustee DeRosa so I can explain that as best I can?
Trustee Ahern-Renata.
Perfect. So we were given tonight, Nadia, our legal representative, told us that we cannot continue a process of code of conduct past the date, the last day to file nominations. So that's where my date of August 19th came in. That's the last date that someone can file a nomination for an election, August 19th at 2 p.m. So we have to have this complete. This is not my constraint. This is the rules and how we are only allowed to continue this code of conduct investigation up until August the 19th. Because of that, I've tried to go backwards to figure out when we are going to be able to decide on sanctions and then allow Trustee Intomasi enough time to respond. Does that clarify your question, Trustee DeRosa?
Thank you very much, Trustee Ahern-Renata. I would, if I'm allowed by the chair, I would only draw one comment on this, and then I will, we can move on to other things.
Sure.
The deliberations of tonight, to some degree, are already casting how should I say, a judgment from the public. You know, ultimately the public will decide whether Trustee Intomasi has been out of line or not. Regardless, the fact that we are having this discussion publicly tonight, and to the point why it belongs effectively in camera, in effect already has been judged. So to me, this discussion about setting deadlines and dates is a moot point. The impact is already being felt within our community of electors. Thank you very much.
you, Trustee DeRosa. So just to comment on that, it's actually not up for the public to determine whether or not a breach of code of conduct has been established. That's what we are doing here as a group of trustees. And secondly, I think it's been well established this evening that this discussion and conversation does not in fact belong in camera. So I just wanted to clarify those 2 points. Trustee Dewart, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, just
May
want to clarify.
may I make a quick comment to that, Madam?
Has the floor. Go ahead, Trustee Dewart.
Madam Chair, I just want to clarify if the 14 days as specified for a response include weekends, holidays, or the 14 calendar days.
Yep. Nadia, do you mind responding to that question?
Yes, it's 14 calendar days, not 14 school days or business days.
Did you have a follow-up, Trustee Dewart?
Thank you. No.
So Trustee DeRosa, you've already spoken to the motion. I'm going to go ahead and call on Trustee Carabella. Trustee Carabella, go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you. I'm just wondering the process of Trustee Antomasi speaking, responding. Is that done in writing? Is that done at another special board meeting? How does that unfold? Thank you. Because, I mean, he has to be, we can provide whatever dates, but if he's not able to be there for a reason that is beyond his control, I'd like to just know if that's even possible. And then, yes, about what format it would look like. Thank you.
So I can start the answer for you, Trustee Carabella, and then if legal wants to jump in. But I'm reading here from the process that we were given from Miller Thompson. It says the board determines that if the board determines a trustee has breached the code of conduct, then the board shall give the trustee written notice of the determination of any sanctions imposed. The notice shall inform the trustee that he or she may make written submissions to the board in respect of the determination or sanction by a date specified in the notice that is at least 14 days after the notice is received by the trustee. And the board shall consider any submissions made by the trustee in accordance with clause B and shall confirm or revoke the determination within 14 days after the submissions are received. So the way that I read that is it is submitted in writing. I'm not sure if I've missed something on that. Nadia, would you be able to comment?
Through you, Vice Chair, the trustee could ask to do it orally. I don't think that there would be any legal restriction from doing that. It's just generally accepted practice that you would provide something in writing so that trustees would have some information in advance, the way that you would receive a report in the usual course. If you don't mind, if I could just clarify something with respect to the dates, because I know that we've been talking about the date of August 19th, and thank you, Trustee, I've forgotten if it, Trustee O'Haran Carnota for identifying this specific date. I just wanted to clarify that one of the reasons that OCSTA has that recommendation as part of their recommendation for hearing codes of conduct violations is because not only do you have an opportunity for the respondent to respond to the finding and then the potential sanction, but then the Board of Trustees also has another step, and that's either to confirm or to vary. And so if the process goes on beyond a certain time frame, you could have a situation where it's not completed before the election. So given the circumstances, if the trustees chose to do so, you could set other dates. However, that's the rationale for the recommendation for OCSTA, and it's a general practice that the process be completed in a time frame that doesn't impact on the ability to complete the process as a result of the election. So if there was any confusion about that, that's my fault, and I apologize for that, but that I wanted to explain that more fully because the respondent has their opportunity to respond, and then there's yet another decision to be made by the Board of Trustees as a result of the response that's provided.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Trustee Carabella, did you have a follow-up?
No.
Thank you. Okay, so Trustee DeRosa, you've already spoken to this matter, but I see your hand back up again. Did you have a further question you wanted to ask?
Thank you very much for the opportunity and the consideration, Madam Chair, but I think I'm done unless something else comes up. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I think, has everyone had a chance to speak to this? You wanted to speak to this? And if so, we can go ahead and take the vote. Yep. Trustee O'Hearns-Renata, do you want to go ahead and close?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I think we've had a fulsome discussion. We can go ahead and vote on this motion if you want.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion moved by Trustee O'Hearns-Renata, seconded by Trustee O'Brien. Resolved that the Board of Trustees defer imposing a sanctions until Trustee Untamasi is able to respond, and no later than Friday, July 29th, 2022. Okay, Trustee O'Hearns-Renata, how do you vote?
I'm in favor.
Trustee Guzzo? Trustee Murphy?
In favor.
Trustee O'Brien?
In favor.
Trustee DeRosa?
Sorry, Madam Chair, I'm not that quick on demuting myself. I will dissent on this motion, Madam Chair. I would like to have it recorded as a dissension, and
Okay.
simply because we're putting.
Trustee DeRosa, thank you. Trustee Carabella?
I will dissent as well.
You're opposed as well. Thank you. Trustee Dewart?
In favor.
And I'm also in favor. Motion passes. So I think, can I pass this back to you now? I'm going to hand the gavel. I believe that this concludes this portion of the evening's events. I'm going to pass the gavel back to Trustee Dewart. Thank you, everybody, for your cooperation.
Thank you, Vice Chair Agnew. Moving on to the next order of business, which is resolution regarding absentees. We have no absentees this evening. Not supposed to. So we have one absentee tonight, which is Trustee Yantamasi. Like a resolution to excuse Trustee Yantamasi.
Carabella will move it.
I will second.
Thank you. Favor?
Favor.
Favor.
Thank you. Moving on to the next order of business, which is adjournment and closing prayer. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved O'Brien.
By Trustee O'Brien. Looking for a seconder?
I'll second it.
Second.
You heard Janada seconds. Anybody opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. I will now ask Vice Chair Agnew to lead us in the closing prayer. Vice Chair Agnew.
Thank you very much, and through you, Mr. Chair, if you'll join me in the sign of our faith, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, may my child not fear, for you are with them. As I place my children in your mighty loving hands, give me peace, knowing that you are right by their side. Please replace their fears with the strength and courage to face whatever the day brings. Give my children a real sense that Jesus is with them. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Vice Chair Agnew. Thank you to Legal, Mr. Timoshenko, and Parliamentarian Kapoor. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.